President Donald Trump stated on Monday that the U.S. will intensify actions against Iran and would go further and further while assuring that military operations would end very soon, helping stabilize turbulent markets amid the escalating West Asia conflict.
We could call it a tremendous success right now as we leave here. I could call it, or we could go further, and we're going to go further. But the big risk on that war has been over for 3 days. We wiped them out in the first 2 days.
Well, following the appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei, son of the assassinated Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, as Iran's new supreme leader, Tehran unleashed missile and drone barrages on Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Israel, and even Turkey, intercepted by NATO defenses. Iran maintains the Strait of Hormuz blockade, halting most tanker traffic and driving benchmark crude to highs before a partial retreat. Wall Street turned positive on Trump's short-term excursion remarks after over 5,000 targets were struck. France is leading defensive efforts to reopen the vital choke point post-conflict peak, while Russia has vowed unwavering support to Iran amid regional rallies and intensifying Hezbollah clashes in Lebanon. Meanwhile, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, has declared that Iran alone will determine the end of the ongoing war, rejecting U.S. President Donald Trump's claims of imminent victory and demands for unconditional surrender. Brigadier General Qamar Hydari, deputy commander of Khatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters, warned that if U.S. and Israeli attacks persist, Tehran will block even 1 liter of oil from leaving the region. He vowed unrelenting retaliatory strikes and designated all American military bases across West Asia as legitimate targets, signaling Tehran's resolve to impose its will despite heavy losses and the prolonged regional crisis. And in a response, U.S. President Donald Trump issued a forceful warning on Truth Social, threatening that any Iranian action to halt oil flow through the Strait of Hormuz would trigger an overwhelming American response. He stated Iran would be struck 20 times harder than previous attacks and that the United States would destroy easily destroyable targets to render Iran's rebuilding virtually impossible as a nation. Trump described the potential devastation as death, fire, and fury, while expressing hope it would not occur. He framed the U.S. military capability as a gift to China and other major oil importers reliant on the strait, urging appreciation for America's protective role amid the escalating West Asia conflict. And India correspondent Akhilesh Suman on Trump's remarks on Iran joins us. Well, Akhilesh, good morning. With the U.S. signaling intensified action against Iran while also claiming the conflict could end very soon, how credible is this dual messaging right now that we see? What can be expected next?
Lipakshi, everyone wants that war should be ending very soon because the whole world is really in trouble because of the war between Israel and US on the one side and Iran on the other. But given the fact that Iranians are also hitting very hard wherever it is possible on either US bases or even inside Israel. So when you are in a war, you cannot predict that when it will end. But when you are a war, you are always telling that you have to tell because it is a psychological warfare also that it will end very soon. So Mr. Trump is doing the same because he must have expected that war will end very soon. As in the past, we have seen that Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia expected that the conflict will end very soon, but it did not end very soon. Even in Gaza and Israel conflict, Netanyahu might be expecting that it will end very soon, but it did not end very soon. So, in the same way, U.S. President Donald Trump is expecting that Iran war will end very soon. But given the fact that the Hormuz is becoming one of the flashpoints because the world's oil supply goes from that strait So in that situation, that everyone in the world is getting affected. Prices of oil are soaring up. And in between, President Trump has talked to Russian President Putin, and after that, he's telling that he will remove some more sanctions on countries over Russian oil. So, even though US is telling that war will end very soon, but there is no deployment of US Navy in the Strait of Hormuz, and unless you deploy Navy in the Strait of Hormuz, Iran is having the major say. Iran is doing whatever it wants, and as a matter of fact, no oil is coming from the Strait of Hormuz. So what is Trump's plan? He has to really reveal, or he will do on the field. But till now, it is looking that war is not going to end very soon. It is taking longer than Mr. Trump might have expected,
Right.
because Iranians also seem to have been preparing for this war for a long time. They have layers of leadership, and they have layers of security, and I think arsenal, which is hidden. Even US has told that they have destroyed the missile capability, but missiles are flying from Iranian side.
Yes.
Drones of Iran are considered to be very good, and they are being used in either in the Gulf region or inside Israel. So I think it will be better to see that when the war ends. But I can tell that both parties are entangled in the war very hard, and everyone is expecting that war should end very soon. I think that let us see that how Iranians are responding to it, because Mr. Trump has said, but Iranians have to say that what they are telling about the war. Lipakshi.
Also, Akhilesh, you mentioned about the Strait of Hormuz. Given Iran's threat to block the Strait of Hormuz and target US bases across West Asia, and on the other hand, US threatening that any Iranian action to halt oil flow would trigger an overwhelming American response. How serious is the risk of the conflict now even more widening more and affecting the global oil supplies?
That as a matter of fact, everyone is telling that Strait of Hormuz, no oil is coming from that side. US President Donald Trump is telling that if Iran wants to stop it, Iran has already stopped it. And you have seen that a oil tanker has even been sunk in the Strait of Hormuz. What US President plans to do in the Strait of Hormuz, we have to see, because the Strait of Hormuz is still in the control of Iranians. US Navy has not reached in that area. Neither Saudi or any other military have interfered in the war between Iran and Israel and US on the other side. So who will do it? How it will be done? We have to see. But everyone is waiting that the oil and gas supplies should not be stopped, because it will stop the whole dynamics, the whole life of countries all around the world.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Akhilesh, for all those details.